All right. Well, welcome everybody. I am very happy to say that this is the start of our 102nd season of operation. And I'm not happy to say that we can't do this in person yet because of COVID. That is unfortunate. But we gotta take the cards we're dealt. And we're on the eve of September 11th. So it's kind of interesting. I looked it up 20 years ago, the start of our 2001-2002 season. It was 3 days after September 11th. It was September 14th of the first meeting, and so it was the first chance for people to get together and enjoy a poetry reading and talk about, you know, all that we had just experienced. And now a whole generation has grown up since then. It's kind of amazing, but I'm sure most of us here have memories of that. I think maybe, I don't know if Malachi does. But anyone else that young here? But I am supposed to say this. Let me get this out of the way. The Poetry Society of South Carolina is supported by South Carolina Humanities, a not-for-profit organization inspiring, engaging, and enriching South Carolinians with programs on literature, history, culture, and heritage. And in case I didn't say it, because I always forget, I'm Jim Lundy. I'm the president of the Poetry Society. And so glad to see you here tonight. And if you're in South Carolina, I don't know other places that people might be, but we've been having some nice fall weather. It's supposed to get down in the 60s tonight. So that is kind of exciting too. Membership, since this is the kickoff of our new membership season, I would like to remind everyone to join or to renew their membership. If you haven't done it in a while, you have to do it now. So, or you don't have to, but this is the time to do it. And we certainly would appreciate your membership. And we're going to talk about, there's 2 workshops tomorrow that you have the opportunity to attend. We'll talk about that later. And that is pretty much all I have. So let's get started with the, Charles, there's one more thing. This is kind of disconcerting to me. The whole time you are on the big screen here. For me, and I don't know.
When you're the speaker, it doesn't show up for you, so it's okay. And people can decide if they want to put it in speaker view or not.
All right, but the recording is going the right way. All right, well, Danielle, it is now on you to introduce our opening poet.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to another Zoom reading. But this one's going to be the best one. So yeah, I'm going to introduce Malachi, and I'm also going to introduce Stephanie. And I'll also drop some links to their books. You know, normally when the authors come, we get to buy their books and have them sign it, and it's a great way to support them. So I strongly encourage you to buy these books and support them. And I'll also be sharing a link at the end of the reading that I would love for you guys to fill out, because it's part of a grant that we received that helps us kind of hear your feedback on the events. So, Malachi Jones is a rising senior at Columbia College, majoring in creative writing with a dual focus in poetry and nonfiction. His work has been honored with several scholastic awards, culminating in a prestigious gold medal writing portfolio in 2018. He currently serves on the editorial board of the Columbia Review, the nation's oldest college literary magazine, and is a frequent programmer on Bernard's WBAR radio. I first met Malachi when he was in an SOA in the 10th grade, the school that I teach at. I could immediately tell that he was a leader among his classmates and that he was a kind, thoughtful young man. It wasn't until he was in my creative writing class the next year, though, that I realized just what an incredibly gifted and diligent writer he is as well. I just saw him smile, and then that made me get a little, I felt emotions. Malachi would work relentlessly on drafts during school, after school, over breaks, all while maintaining academic excellence, working a part-time job and driving the long slog to North Charleston from Hollywood, South Carolina, each school day. For his senior thesis, Malachi wrote an exquisite collection of poems and lyric essays, which he self-published as a part of his senior thesis, and you can get on Amazon. And I'll put the link in just a moment. Focusing on contemporary issues of race and politics, Forget Us Not tells the story of a young Black man trying to find his role and value in the world and in himself. Commenting on cultural stamps such as blackface, Christianity, corporal punishment, and more, the work is urgent and well-crafted, marking someone at the beginning of a long career. It is no wonder then that Malachi earned a prestigious Questbridge Scholarship to Columbia, where he continues to pursue meaningful work both in and out of the classroom. He is the kind of person that inspires one to do and be better. In all of the uncertainty and pain of this particular historical moment, Malachi and his work is a reminder of the light and truth accessible to all of us, so long as we keep going, so long as we don't forget our shared humanity. Please welcome Malachi Jones.
Thank you so much, D-Tib. I really appreciate your words. So hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Malachi Jones. First off, I'm extremely grateful and just excited to be reading before you tonight. It is not every day or a year that a writer gets to open for someone of the caliber and talent that is Destiny O. Birdsong. So I'm just extremely privileged to be in that position. I had time, so I just want to quickly acknowledge a few of my other mentors, Rutledge Hamas and Beth Webb Hart, for their just priceless guidance in craft and just being incredible individuals. All of that said, though, I will stop rambling and I'll just get into the poetry. So this first poem is called Baldwin Exhibit on 19th Street, and it was inspired by after I went to a Baldwin exhibit on 19th Street. So I hope you enjoy. James, yesterday, the look of you left your eyes right in my vision. My eyes were taken by you, fixated on your gaze, how your pupils barely nestled between their lids. Before the exhibit, litter and wicked air and drift kept on in the streets, and the loudest city notes still fell short to dialogue I have with myself. Stepping while speaking is ceaseless. I'd seen your face many times, debating, moving, breathing in dense tobacco, a born-again Parisian. Left speechless is simple, given evenly. Yesterday morning, though, I handed you my sight. I won't romance you. Much of your words are foreign to me today. I was reared in miracle worship, but I'll concede it was coincidence. But last night, I saw a boy, live and real and stranger, who shared your eyes, always out of skull, lazy and rare. Age 23, he stood with us on 116th, scoping out a newer Harlem, his uncovered face in the cold. This next poem is called An American Poem, and is dedicated to my grandfather, who I call Papa. So it's called An American Poem. From a trip he took to Moscow. It's Moscow 77, Red Square. A brown aviator jacket warms and wraps the brown man inside it, his camera in tow. An artist paints in the street, undeterred by weather. He adorns Kremlin stars atop the towers, peeking at his cityscape, then translates the scene to canvas. The brown man, black man, asks for a photo. Maybe disturbs the artist, but work in hand, he smiles. The flash points towards him, yet there's stars in the black man's eyes, hoping for fireworks and gun barrels to light up Manhattan, clean subways, more unions, real artists. That cowhide aviator stunk of Coke and Marlboro, cane sugar split with a blade and licked rolling papers. Reminds him of Bragg's, of his infant girl by Audubon Avenue, stench of a home, better stripped of its white and blue.
I love that one. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Which poem should I do next? Next poem I'm going to read is called, so this next poem is called What to a Black Cosmonaut is a Constellation. I wrote this, it was inspired by like this 2-year obsession I kind of had with the story of Blind Willie Johnson. He is a Texas bluesman from the early 20th century who basically, he died in relative obscurity. He died in like the ashes of his own home, impoverished, only for 60, 70 years later for his song to be a part of this catalog that was sent in the Voyager probes. Right now, those are the 2 furthest man-made objects in history. They will last after this Earth is gone, after we are all gone. And I don't know, I just find it I found it very intriguing, the dissonance between a man who was exploited for being a Black musician, being a blind musician, in a society that kind of saw his life as inconsequential at the time. And I find for him now to be carrying the torch of humanity, in a sense, to be quite beautiful in a way. So this is called What to the Black Cosmonaut is a Constellation. Me and Papa share the air. We tear into a joke. The way kids go into the nighttime, fingers affixed up, tearing through across wind and weight at white hot stars. Little thimbled rebels, how they stitch their strings to streak to streak to streak of light. I've heard the road to heaven is paved in the gruff of a blind man, burned by lye water, lying in the ash of his homestead. Steady gospel goes to God, and a Black man chews his gristle. No eclipse been seen here since 1905, much less a star, much less a blues man. Names light enough to pass through a dust jacket, pulse a note to Voyager 1, and ping back home. A golden SIM card flung spaceward, like a skipping stone, coils with the voice of a ghost. Mr. Johnson sang in and about dark, and each day the earth is becoming a smaller watch face. Red lights help track late night aviators who trace wildly in my skybox, skewing the new dippers and lit by digit lines. What respect do I have for flight paths? There's no upper corner suns. Please, night trace like no trajectory need be terminal. Thank you. I have 2 more poems. The poem I'm about to read up next is one of my favorite poems in recent years I've written. It is inspired heavily by the work of Morgan Parker, by her poem, Matt. I really suggest someone should link it or read it. It's great. But this is called Alice, and it's a bit of a play on her poem, Matt. Alice. Presently, it's spring. Earth's axis tilts and we adapt. Our lamps don't glow long and we grow bold enough to strip. Back home, it's been spring since winter. The youth there mingle with fervor. They scope lovers and stock liquor for the summer, and none of them more fervently than Alice. Alice thinks she's unique. There's not a sunset this season she hasn't captured for the gram. Alice doesn't use social media. She's an ally in the South. She's white, she's straight, she's gay. Alice is a progressive Southern belle. Alice can't believe that in 2021 anything. She likes girls, finds them cute. She just really wants to make out with her right now. Alice denounces the repressive past, chooses to live in the future. Alice responds to your morning text in the evening because what happened last night was so weird. LOL. Alice is woke. Alice knows she has privilege. Everyone knows Alice has privilege. She can keep fucking her white boyfriend even though he says nigger. He has a Black friend. Alice has some great relative who is only mostly white. Alice lives in the suburbs. Alice lives on a plantation. Alice's parents are happily married. Alice's parents are divorced. She has bangs. She would rather die than get bangs. She smokes from her bowl. She drinks and never pays. Alice is a good drunk driver. Alice lets us know who's canceled. Alice says it's more complicated than that. She's so over talking about so-and-so. So-and-so is ratchet, not because they're Black. Alice only listens to country. Nicki Minaj is her queen. Alice wants mixed babies. They look so nice and tan in the summer. Alice has freckles. She's brunette. She's blonde. Her eyes are, she works retail. She sells weed. Alice supports equity. Alice is staying in state. Alice is studying abroad. Alice silently blames affirmative action. Alice is a great actor, fools herself half the time. Alice is authentic. Thank you. Love
That was so amazing.
Thanks, Sage. So thank you. This last poem is very, very fresh, very new. You probably can sense that, maybe a bit didactic. But before I read it, I just would like to, for anyone who's not aware, so a hush harbor, so during slavery, the Black religious expression was usually outright not permitted, or you were forced assimilated into whatever your the slave owner's religion was. So oftentimes, to converge and have a communal spiritual experience, the enslaved peoples would go to these pastures or openings known as hush harbors, because it was usually a necessity to not be heard. And some of the practices that went on there were called a ring shout, and that was basically a circle in which the enslaved would celebrate, dance, etc. Just an uninhibited spiritual expression in the face of the white power structure. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you hear allusion to that in the poem. Okay. I caught word of the newer world, tumbling out of the yellow of his porcelain tooth. Mind the front door, Papa says, 'cause death gives a knock sometimes. Like pictures in plane accidents, the air we push through is thinning and change is close enough to forget. Look how they forged us, educate and fed us, a milk bath of white myth spilling between the gaps of the radical's fist. The blueprints of Black progress left to ruin. The old folk told us higher learning was liberation. Instead, I was marched back into empire. I fraternized with the file and rank, prodigal sons, their pockets full of posies and false belief. We're in this hand in hand, they say, to ring and read about the rosies, a handshake between power and passivity. Deliverance as a witness, there's no hand-holding in my ring shout. That lack of white noise, remnants of the hush harbor. That progress is a gild to my chickweed crown. And when I emerged from worship, I knew I was naked. Good Lord, pale hands, rub my atoms like rosaries into ash. Thank you. Thank you.
Incredible, incredible reading. Powerful, powerful work. Thank you so much.
We can keep the love coming in the comments for Malachi, and also please scroll up. I put the link to his book. Please buy it. Malachi, that was so beautiful. Thank you. I love hearing all your new work. Okay. Okay, and now I'd like to introduce Destiny. Destiny O. Birdsong is a Louisiana-born poet, essayist, and fiction writer who lives and writes in Nashville, Tennessee. Her work has appeared in the Paris Review, Catapult, the BreakBeat Poets Presents, Black Girl Magic, and elsewhere. Her critical work recently appeared in African American Review and the Cambridge Companion to Transnational American Literature. Destiny has won numerous awards, including the Academy of American Poets Prize and Meridian's 2017 Borders Contest in Poetry. She has received support from Cave Canem, Callaloo, Jack Jones Literary Arts, Pink Door, MacDowell, the Ragdale Foundation, and Tin House, where she was a 2018 Summer Workshop Scholar. Her debut poetry collection, Negotiations, was published by Tin House Books in October 2020 and was longlisted for the 2021 Voelcker Award for a poetry collection. Her debut novel is forthcoming from Grand Central in February 2022. Destiny's collection Negotiations begins with two epigraphs about metaphor. The first by Terrence Hayes reads, "What moves between us has always moved as metaphor." The second by T.J. Jarrett reads, "The worst has already happened to us," she said. "What good is metaphor now?" This begins the negotiations of these wrought poems. Sometimes we need metaphor's vehicle because we cannot look directly at its tenor, the inciting incident. And yet sometimes metaphor fails us because it obscures our truths and allows for silence. This tension appears throughout the collection, for example, in poems about the speaker's body, which exists both in its literal physicality and in the figurative imagination of both herself and others. In Ode to My Body, Destiny writes that you should have happened to a more careful woman. Here, the speaker is the subject, the body a kind of abstract other. But by poem's end, the speaker acknowledges the body's viscerality as a host of organs I hope I never see. The poem 400 Meter Heat further considers the ways in which people might be stripped of their somebodiness. This is how it feels to be a problem, hoping that when a country's cameras are trained on my back and I offer the fruited plain of my body, it's somehow enough. But of course it's not, because white supremacy and patriarchy work to make humans into bodies, into things, into nobodiness. In a 2020 interview, Destiny said, "Poetry isn't magic, but I think what it does is make survival possible." In other words, a poem can't pass legislation, it cannot feed or house people, it cannot provide healthcare or life-saving vaccines, but it can show us what survival looks like and that we are what's worth fighting for. Please welcome Destiny Birdsong.
Thank you for that amazing introduction. And thank you so much for reading, Malachi. I love Morgan Parker's poem, Matt, and so hearing your version of it is amazing. That was so good. I loved it, but anyway, I'm going to read a few poems. It's so wild because sometimes, like, you know, being a poet without a book, it can be like an agonizing experience. And then having the book, like it can sometimes be an experience that I think for me is so intense that I kind of move away from it. So when Danielle was reading the epigraphs, I was like, right, my book does have 2 epigraphs. It's like, it's become such a part of, the book has become such a part of my life now that sometimes I forget. Sometimes the parts slip my mind. So that was really lovely. I'm going to start with a few poems from the first section, which are a little bit about race and politics and a little bit about the academy. The first one is called I Too Sing America. It's a line from a Langston Hughes poem. I Too Sing America. But mostly when it's convenient, when I'm abroad, I fucking love the Constitution, the gall of the forefathers, still tittering in their received pronunciation, sauced up since whiskey was more sanitary than water. And when the woman runs out of her shop on Callaloo, where I'm fingering scarves on the sidewalk, I aim my accent at her and pull the trigger. No one ever says nigger, but we lock eyes and she know I know what she means. I learned to count pound and pence after I kept getting incorrect change. Who steals the most? Who steals what is most valuable? I palm 2 bottles of nail lacquer, wander upstairs for the cookies and shit. I'm always hungry. The portions are always too small. I need more dressing. I hear music coming from a rucksack and I dance in the crosswalk. At the opposite end, a brown man tells me my backpack has hiked up my skirt. I wink and say, soon you won't give a fuck about my body. That's assimilation. He smiles, says carefully, have a nice day. Elsewhere, I'm paying extra for the excursion. I want to swim with the pigs. I need to touch something else that can be offered for a small fee or slaughtered. I'm high on hash browns and all Black service. I could be dead in Seattle, in Baltimore, Nebraska. What you want from me? What you got that won't get me killed? I ask this of every land I've planted my feet on and loved. Like the forefathers, it tables the difficult questions. Ocean water slicks my thighs. I submerge, watch schools of zebrafish graze my sister's palms. They are sand softened, like the leather handbag she bought in Atlanta. Her bracelet tapped the emblem like a prisoner making music to the knock of waves in the hull of the women being dragged upstairs. The ancestors never had it so good. Maybe the children will. Another man on the beach grates his stubble with a bleached towel, waves a coconut and says he can make it as strong as I like. I am carnivorous and cannibal. I tip my room key and a smile. When I leave, I put all my cards in their holsters. I go like Darren, like Geronimo, no convictions, and I declare nothing. The next poem is called Harambe for President, 2016 write-in ballots. There was a story immediately after the presidential election that people had wrote in the name of Harambe, who was a silverback gorilla that was killed at the Cincinnati Zoo because a little boy had fallen into the gorilla pit. The poem also references Coke, who was a female gorilla who was taught sign language. Coco, whose name meant firecracker child, and whom her handler Penny called self-absorbed, would position a toy gorilla's hands with her teeth to sign drink. We are most ourselves in the water, says my swim coach. We only struggle to breathe when we remember it can drown us. But if we can forget, we can move forward. A man I'd like to love tells me this about our country when the election results come in and all of our imaginary children disappear. My fingers are smaller than Coco's, but still I'm bad at touch screens. I check the ballot twice before pressing vote. I don't want to do it wrong. And call me judgmental for hating every hand who wrote in the name of a beast. To them, I am living, but my survival isn't worth nearly as much effort. Yet we all take the sticker. We all brag of our civic duty, gliding home on a wave of solidarity that feels like kinship, which is what one Twitter troll quipped about the little Black boy who fell into Harambe's confused hands. Just going to visit his cousins anyway. What's the fuss? We're dragging each other through the moat, the space separating human from feral. Coco never had babies because she never had a coven, no sister mothers to help her groom or forage for food, save Penny, who taught her first betrayals, the signs for eat and browse, the lettuce on which she was chewing when she picked out a mate she would never feel comfortable enough to let touch her, not tenderly, not savagely, not the way the great apes mate, which I do not know because contrary to popular opinion, I am not one. There are many women whose cheeks and hands they press into mine. Sometimes they restart my breathing with their sounds. I may love Black women most because in our captivity, we hold each other. Coco likes to chew on the fists of her plastic babies, then lift one to her breast to suck. Had she been anywhere, perhaps eating wild celery in Angola, she would have been dead years before. To be confined on one continent is to be hunted on another. This is why Facebook tells me I can't leave. Think of the amniotic coffin of the Aegean. Think of sterilized Ethiopians in Israel. Quiet as it's kept, had Coco not almost died and been rescued from a zoo overstocked with silverbacks and their harvested semen, she might have been Harambe's grieving mother. But chance and the votes of white women rule us all. This is, of course, America, its reddest records written in the name of their preservation. Coco's favorite signs were Coco Love and Coco Good. Even her toys could make the plea for water perfectly. She knew who didn't have the luxury of making mistakes. So I watch tons of TV, which means I see lots of commercials. And There are a couple of commercials that were in circulation a few years ago, both of which I really hated. And this poem is about those commercials. And the poem is called Primetime. Also some references to the 2016 Olympics. Primetime. In one commercial, the token Black mother sitting with a table of friends at Chuck E. Cheese doesn't care if the mushrooms in the Alfredo are fresh, and she doesn't need Chef Tony's recipe. She just wants to know if he's married for a friend. In another, the lone Black girl at the party has forgotten the relationship between nut allergies and peanut butter. She just knows her brownies are hidden. With her stringy weave and badly mimed surprise, maybe she thought her homegirl's skin too porcelain, so she fed her something that would stipple it with welts. Revenge is always, but never really, a Black woman yelling, flailing and helpless in a room of shuffling feet. At a conference, I sip vodka straight and slip into a green jumpsuit that looks almost like January Jones's at the Emmys. Danica says, jewel tones are good for blondes. In the lobby, a white man from my cohort holds me aloft by my elbows, exclaiming, but you look great, as if he'd opened a menu and found a gluten-free version of desire, me, wrong-colored and splayed like blood-speckled currency, my breasts, two overripe apples in a food desert, my pussy convenient as an EpiPen if you keep one around. Bummer. For my friend, says the mother, when the waitress confirms Chef Tony is, in fact, married. The choking girl says nothing, and neither do I. But I steady my gaze to meet the man's benevolent shock. Each almost word, a pollen-flecked stinger hiving my throat. Trust me, motherfucker, I think. I always know how it looks. So actually, again, going back to what I said about how sometimes books become such a part of you that you kind of forget things. I'm going to read the poem that actually does have the references to the 2016 Olympics, and Danielle was so nice to quote part of this in the introduction. It's called The 400-Meter Heat. I'm most American when I reach for more ketchup as Shawnee Miller dives across the finish. I'm blackest when Allison Felix collapses on the track, her knees up, concealing her last name and the letters USA blistering her chest. I'm saddest whenever two Black women are competing because I never know who to root for. And I'm arrogant enough to believe my split loyalty fails them, which makes me more American again. This is how it feels to be a problem. Hoping that when a country's cameras are trained on your back and you offer the fruited plain of your body, it's somehow enough to quench the parched land where all the mothers keep dying. Each ghost, a breath song trilling in your blood, and perhaps one day grand mal convulsions, petechiae like pomegranate seeds jeweling your face. Every race is a transubstantiation of flesh, just not to gold or bronze or mythical filigree, but to the fleeting, nameless moment when a foot finds the chalk line drawn by someone else. Maybe #magic, or a single unfortunate tremor that means nothing until you're dead. Who knows what metals the gods use to forge victory, which is neither sympathy nor love, nor more sacred than that footfall, its indiscernible blip magnified for millions of eyes that only blink when we're winning, which you too probably missed. Although later, in the dash cam footage, you'll swear to me you saw it. Emeritus. Only a few degrees separate the splotches of color on both our cheeks when I ask if he's read Olsman's theory of Guinness and motion, Wung's description of the copper skies of war, Murillo's conversation with two sparrows. I know enough not to ask about women. He seizes on the birds. All the greats wrote about birds, but sparrows are biblical and mundane. Perhaps there should have been kingfishers instead. Such majesty there, such music. He goes on about vacations in Sydney and the kookaburras. Meanwhile, summer tattoos its ochre fingers with the lattice work of death masks. Hammerheads flounder on the seabed, fins folding in oil-choked water. Others swim in silver tureens on the coast. A glacier the size of Delaware cracks loose in the Arctic, and in the place where Wilmington might be, a polar bear cannibalizes its cub. Elsewhere, the mother of an unprotected species lunges in the eyes of the law and is euthanized in front of her 4 children. Or was it 2? 1 grown son, 3 and a fetus? And this man of arts, letters, and no regrets except one, not taking that day trip to Canberra, turns to my page. I don't understand the girl. She does nothing but play jacks, drink Kool-Aid with a spoon, and tell her mother she wants to be a policeman while the mother rubs Vaseline on her legs. There's a message there, but I have trouble identifying, well, it doesn't matter. Read Wordsworth's We Are 7. Then we can address what should happen to her together. At this point, only the Vaseline is interesting, an ethnic thing, yes? Perhaps then a poem from the perspective of the jar. There's some body poems in the middle of the book, and I'm going to start with one Danielle also referenced in the introduction. It's called Ode to My Body, and it's after Lucille Clifton's The Lost Baby poem. Ode to My Body. You were born in the year of the rooster and the dismembered grandmother, your mama's first Christmas alone, trying to guess how much sugar to put in the pies and how much can kill. You were bundled into the house with the 2 uncles sharing one of the bedrooms and 0 baths, a summer cabin in another life. I have treated you like anything I never earned. Every light blazing, fridge wide open, cooling the whole neighborhood, doors unlocked. I don't know how you survived the years without sunscreen or health insurance. Crabs from the first time I dropped as nameless as apple seeds into the toilet. The Everclear, the laxatives, the Black and Milds. You should have happened to a more careful woman, never known anxiety or shame. The 13-hour drive through Arkansas, panic as silent as the sleet sticking the windshield. The lectures taught with a gallon of prep scouring your insides, the distance to the bathroom tucked behind one ear, my pride intent on beating your best time. If you could speak in languages other than mucus and loose stools, I would apologize for this and other things, just to hear you answer in a voice not unlike my own. Remind us what we are to each other. Echo, Narcissus, both drunk on their own guile, both murderous in their insistence of love. You should know I never looked at you and blamed your mother, though it is true I have wished you smaller with more symmetry, like the stone of a fruit nestled in the slick flesh of the world. In so many ways, I have tried to discard you, or I have cut you in 2 with water fasts, nicotine, stretched you to feed the men what they wanted, the women what they could love. And when you failed, and I have called you failure, whom could I blame? What wonder is it that your newest threat is your own patrol of cells, a house as divided as the country intent on stealing your coverage? It's all right, but this is the most epic thing about you. And all right that, like your ancestors, you might leave with fewer parts than those with which you came. I would promise you good years between now and then, But who would I be fooling? Even now, I'm slipping you milk and slabs of bread smeared with butter. Like all your lovers, I know how much you can take. I have come to love not you, but your refusal to be consumed. I push you up pill bottles and downstairs, and every morning you wrap a thin new layer of membrane around the sack that holds my heart. Dispatch a brigade of cells with their sealed warrants to a host of organs I hope I never see. This poem is called Macular Conception. He wrapped all the negative tests in paper towels and threw them away at the gas station up the street, lined the tampons up one by one beneath her mattress. 36. She doesn't want to need them, hopes that in the days and weeks of the summer's bilious heat, she can succeed at failure, at least in the eyes of the single mothers she knows, especially her own. But she wants this. She wants it so badly, she imagines her skin stretching in sleep. She claws it feverishly, awakening to trails of crescent-shaped whelps on her belly that resemble a seascape drawn by the hand of a child. The boy, who has never slept next to a pregnant girl, has seen these, but he believes they're stretch marks. The boy believes her, along with her shift manager, all of her friends, and 2 of her professors. But the stash of tampons is dwindling. She can't buy more. Luckily, the flow is weak, red dabs of spit. If anyone asks, she can just tell them she's spotting. Squatting over a restroom seat, she wonders what her body means to say in this remittance. The possibilities excite her. Standing, she wills the unshed blood and refuse to knit a net, trapping a piece of her lover. This swimming self nudges against the folds of her endometrium like a catfish nosing algae from the walls of an aquarium. She can see it as clearly as if her womb were made of glass. She can feel its small, open-mouthed kisses stinging the way the father's does, teeth nicking her tongue. And the bliss of it, the womb's obedience and the boy brings the rush she never feels. She arches, contracts. This father, the boy who sleeps next to her, wants to leave, but he won't. She's having his child, or she will be. She must be. Beneath yellow traffic lights, she scratches the sun visor and makes a wish that is much more like a prayer. Please, let it count for something that I believe myself, because I believe myself. I've got a few minutes left. I'm going to read from a sequence of poems that occurs in the middle of the book. Just a trigger warning, these poems discuss sexual assault, and several of them start with the phrase "my rapist," and then a phrase or a complete sentence. And I think what's interesting about these poems is that I've written about them in multiple genres, which is also going to be the topic of my craft workshop tomorrow morning. And I think writing about them in many different forms has made them easier to read, but not always easy to read. So bear with me. This poem is called "My Rapist Once Said He Didn't Need Anything from Me." There was already a woman, shorter, thicker, dumber, ensconced in a dope house on the side of town. He and I had escaped through magnet programs, diplomas, student debt, a certain dexterity of speech. She'd spread for him like a pallet whenever he wanted, wherever. I boasted that I could do the same, but I didn't mean it. There were papers to grade, the dog with her spit-wad nose nabbing me as soon as my feet touched February's floors, little snatches of sleep, which I stashed between the deliria of sweating and spreading. Those days, I was thin as a sheep. I whipped through his doors without a thread to count and pinned myself to him like clothesline. I popped onto beds without a wrinkle to my name. The other one, she had been ripped open before, though not with his hands. He considered making love to her healing, just the boyfriend stitch until she could find a suitor. See, he loved me best because I wasn't broken like her, but I wasn't broken enough. I liked orgasms. I thought men his age should eat vegetables and talk about their feelings. I laughed when I wanted to laugh, even if it was at him. I liked to work. There are the lives we barter and the lives we give. There are ways to be chosen and ways to be tossed aside, said my mother. All of them happen at the hands of men. Had I known enough to decipher the first lie, then perhaps while watching him rise for a clean towel, passing my mirrors, marveling at himself naked and unblamed, I might have dismantled the second. I might have considered the fate of the woman whose mouth I'd stuffed with stigma and my own will to win him, panting from her in a foot race we'd been running since our youth. Bare soles slapping the pavement, the finish line, rusted twine holding everything I wanted at a respectable distance above her head, out of her grasp. I might have considered the counterfactual distance widening, narrowing between us. I might have saved at least one of us by calling out the other. My rapist taught me the proper way to cook bacon. Because his father would rave over skillet blackened strips, and he wouldn't be his father. Not then, not now. That hulk of a man with his slowly deflating chest, rummaging for knives the new wife has hidden, hoping to remember how to slice an apple, hoping to remember how to chew it. You are my knife, my rapist would whisper to my breasts, to the pillow over my head, and I was stupid enough to believe I'd split him open, cure him with sugar, suck salt from the fat, teach him to love women the way he taught me to bake flesh, like an afterthought, like a modest proposal. But like I said, he didn't want to be his father, so I couldn't be his mother, patient as she was, with her pocketbook loans and her grandbaby running circles in the makeshift castle of her living room, while my rapist and I smeared fluids on each other a few streets away. He built that place as a teenager, he said. After the father left, the girl had a right to be there whenever she wanted. Daycare was expensive, and he was saving for a bigger place, for us. I was trained to hear home, and he knew it. Until that first morning above freezing, when the lights flickered off and a man scurried back to his service vehicle as we watched from the kitchen window, the coil of rooms cooling around us. He and I poured pancake batter into Tupperware bowls, then slammed through his mother's kitchen, still careening with the joy of surviving the glassy streets. Buoyed by hot water and warmth, we giggled and sipped her homemade punch until it reddened our tongues, our teeth. Even now, I'm afraid he'll think I betrayed him as he reads this, little boy that he was, always so tired of being ruled by women, the baby and the mama, the baker, the banker. I believed him when he said judges always take our word over his. What a fucking honor. I can hear him fuming, flipping these pages back and forth, looking for his name. He would tell you there was joy in the beginning, but we humans, with our windowless ranges, how could I have known the cast of iron in him would scorch anything left unattended? The truth is, I never ate so well before or since. Take that any way you want. Every morning, when I'd twist the knob, slide in the meat, I knew what I was doing. I could have sworn I knew what I was waiting for. And I like to end with joy. So I'm going to end with the last poem in the collection. It's called And Though the Odds Say Improbable, which if you love Stevie Wonder, you know what song that's from. It's from Overjoyed. And though the odds say improbable, the Black ladies in their printed dresses float into the deli, tip-tipping across the coat of grease on the floor. It's still warm in October, so they remove their sunglasses, rub their oiled shoulders, remark, "Oh, so cold in here." One watches purses while others shimmy to the salad bar. Some are nurses here for conferences, some on lunch breaks from government jobs downtown. Some are flakes. Unemployed, divas, deans, retired, do hair, edges slick, wand curls crisp in the freoned air. They pinch the fainted lettuce onto plates. They scoop the pitted olives, cherries, dates into bowls. The cotton blended florals, plaids, prisms, paisleys, polkas flutter on calves until they reach their seats. They kiss mustard, avocado, banana pudding, or really just custard with mashed up banana, from three-ringed fingers. One sways to the soft serve machine and lingers a little too long, but returns with a smile. A swirl cone, done up soda counter style. Every one of them been through something: sit-ins, bombings, busing, the crack epidemic, Reaganomics, backdoor abortions, miscarriages, picket signs in front of the free clinic, and now the white girl with the blunt bob snatching plates too early. They tap her wrist, give each other the look, saying, "It's all right, miss. Don't worry about us." My heart liked to stop when the Black ladies nodded their heads and hoops, clip-ons, drop pearls, chandeliers, gold nickel earrings twirled above beautiful elbows. Not a care in this old world. Republic been crumbled. Black Wall Street crashed about a century ago. They leave together. Their laughter is brash and openly secretive. You bet not ask. Perfume wafts. They wave, saying, "All right, girl, I'll be seeing you." One coughs, and I pray it's just the cold air, the pollen, the pepper, a little piece of meat stuck in her throat. Listen, the Black ladies better have a blessed day, month, year, life. And I mean it the opposite way. They mean it whenever they have to say it to coworkers, husbands, customers, the demon boy. Ooh, child, I meant deacon. As I leave, I touch the table where they sat. They aren't superhuman. They ain't even always able to save the children, the men, the country, or even your silk presses. But whatever they touch, somebody's good God blesses. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Destiny. That was awesome. And Malachi, you too. That was a great start to our evening. So thanks to you both. Destiny, I'd like to ask you to talk a little bit about your workshop tomorrow. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, so it's called The Ambidextrous Writer. I will call this workshop exploratory, which means I hope that we come together to sort of discuss some of the questions that I have, which are like, why do we choose, or how do we choose the genres in which we write, you know, and how do our obsessions sometimes cross those genres and we write about things again and again. The poet Rachel McKibbins once said, "You can write about a thing as often as you want. Nobody has to give you permission for that." And so that's kind of what I imagine us doing in the workshop, kind of thinking about how we write about what we want to write about and how we do it in different genres. So yeah, so I got a few poems and some great passages from nonfiction essays and memoirs that I've I've got ready to talk about, and a few writing exercises. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but definitely a workshop where I'm not actually like trying to tell people exactly how to do a thing, because I feel like it's something I'm still discovering myself. So I'm hoping that it is a collaborative moment of discovery. So.
And can I just say, well, thank you. That reading was incredible. Can you all hear me?
You're good now.
Okay, I put the link for the information for tomorrow's seminar in the chat. So please go ahead and look that up. It's from 10 to noon tomorrow. It's free. I'm looking at you now. Okay. Hope to see you there. No pressure. And then I'm also in the chat the 2 books again. So please, this has been a hard year for artists and for people who are trying to make some kind of money from gigs and from selling their art. And so it would just mean so much to both of these incredible poets for you to support their work. And then just one last thing, as promised, Charles was my wingman and reminded me, we receive a grant that allows us to support so much of the work that we do. And so please, just at some point, if you could take this survey that I've just linked, it take you like 1 minute. That would be super helpful for us.
Danielle, is that the survey I sent you earlier? Because that's the one for the workshop.
Oh.
So I've got one for tonight's reading, which I am just, okay, so you'll see that, because the one I sent you earlier is for the workshop.
Oh, okay.
But the one,
I thought you sent me that.
The one I just put up, and this is the hardest thing that anyone's going to ask you to do tonight, is to participate in this workshop. Everyone hates, I mean, not workshop, but the survey. Everyone hates doing these things, but like Danielle said, it is part of our funding. We really hope that you will click on that survey and spend 3 minutes on it. That's all it takes. And especially interesting to us in that survey is where you're watching this from. So we'd like to know where everybody is. Just a city, you don't have to give your address. So thank you for doing that. And tomorrow, Danielle, take that survey and
Yeah.
have people fill that one out tomorrow.
Yeah, please fill out the survey. Please buy those books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's oh, there's one other thing. What we were going to have is a regional Beaufort workshop tomorrow. That's unfortunately, we had to call that for COVID, but they're doing that virtually. So I think probably anyone who's already doing that tomorrow probably knows about it and whatever, but that is going on. It's almost the same time. Unfortunately, there's an overlap. So, but I think it's mostly Beaufort people are going to be taking that tomorrow. But that's all I've got. I think it was a wonderful evening, a wonderful start to our 102nd season. And I look forward to doing this in person when we can. But once we do start that, we are still going to Zoom it so everybody could be there virtually from wherever they are. But we'll also have the chance to see each other in person again after. This is our 3rd season in a row that's been affected by COVID. 2 seasons ago, we canceled the last 3 meetings because we didn't know what else to do. Then last season, we had all virtual meetings. And so pulled that season out of the fire. And now this season, we're at least starting with Zoom. And I'd like to think that we're going to be ending in person. That would be my dream. So we'll see how it goes. If our vaccination rates stay under 50% for this state, then I guess things are just going to keep on going like this. But all right, well, I'm going to take the survey, and I hope all of you do too. And I'm going to hit the record button and stop. Whoa. Stop recording this, and then you can stick around and we can talk freely. I think, Charles, I'm going to need you to talk me into